Welcome to Data Processing and Storage. After watching this video, you will be able to recognize the role of memory in a system, differentiate between memory slots and expansion slots, and evaluate the importance of the BIOS and CMOS. The CPU is a silicon chip in a special socket on the motherboard. CPUs contain billions of microscopic transistors on a single computer chip. These billions of transistors enable the computer calculations needed to run programs available in your system's memory. A 32-bit CPU is a processor architecture that can transfer 32 bits of data per clock cycle. Think of a 32-bit CPU as a two-lane information highway. 32-bit processors are found in laptops, workstations, and servers. A 64-bit CPU is comparable to a four-lane information highway, enabling twice the amount of data to move compared to a 32-bit CPU. 64-bit processors are also found in laptops, workstations, and servers. Random access memory, or RAM, temporarily stores working data and machine code. Because RAM is volatile, any data existing in RAM is lost when power is terminated. RAM is cold pluggable or cold swappable. Cold pluggable or cold swappable means that the hardware is off or that the hardware is in a state of being without power. RAM speeds are measured in megahertz or millions of cycles per second. Currently, RAM speeds can range from 1333 megahertz to speeds of 2133 megahertz. RAM is available in several forms of varying speeds and storage capacities, depending on your type of motherboard and needs. The memory you use depends on your motherboard type. Common forms of memory include the following. Dynamic random access memory, or DRAM, stores each bit of data in a memory cell, usually consisting of a tiny capacitor and a transistor. SDRAM, or synchronous dynamic random access memory, is a form of DRAM semiconductor memory that can run faster than DRAM. Double data rate synchronous dynamic random access memory, or DDR SDRAM, is faster than SDRAM because it fetches data twice per clock cycle. Double data rate 3 synchronous dynamic random access memory, known as DDR3 SDRAM, is faster than DDR SDRAM. And double data rate 4th generation, or DDR4, is a faster, more reliable replacement for DDR3 SDRAM that uses less power. And small outline dual input memory module, or SODIMM, chips are commonly used in notebooks since there is a lack of space. SODIMM slots take half the space of desktop slots, but they draw more power. A memory slot holds a RAM, random access memory stick in place on a computer's motherboard. Only memory chips can fit into these dedicated slots. Memory slots allow the system to use RAM by enabling the motherboard to communicate with memory. Depending on the motherboard, there will be 2 to 4 memory slots, sometimes more on high-end motherboards. The memory slots on the motherboard determine the type of RAM that's compatible with a computer. Older machines used the original Peripheral Component Interconnect, or PCI, expansion slots. Newer motherboards use the PCI Express, known as PCIe. These slots hold expansion cards designed to provide additional features to a computer, such as enhanced sound, memory, high-end graphics, and network interfaces which can be wired or wireless. The computer's motherboard determines which additional capabilities are available based on the additional slots. The disk controller is a circuit that enables the central processing unit, or CPU, to communicate with a hard disk, floppy disk, or other kinds of disk drives. The Integrated Drive Electronics, or IDE, disk controller was a standard created for communications between the CPU and hard drives in computers. An IDE controller exists as a small circuit board on the motherboard, with chips that guide how the hard disk drive stores and accesses data. Most controllers include some memory that boosts hard drive performance. The BIOS, Basic Input-Output System, manages your computer's exchange of inputs and outputs, mostly when you're booting up your computer. Every computer has a BIOS pre-programmed into its motherboard. It's different than an operating system that can be installed, uninstalled, and updated long after you've bought the computer. When your computer is unplugged, the BIOS remains operational and relies on a battery for power. Such batteries exist in laptops and desktop PCs, but it's used more frequently in a laptop because laptops are usually unplugged longer than desktop PCs. You can update a BIOS through a process called flashing. To do this, you need the BIOS version number. You can find the BIOS version number in the System Information window. In Windows 10, press the Windows key plus R, type MS-INFO32 into the run box, and press Enter. The BIOS version number is displayed in the BIOS version date field. The directions on how to flash the BIOS differ among motherboard manufacturers, so check the manufacturer's website for their procedure and proceed with caution. CMOS is short for complementary metal oxide semiconductor. A CMOS battery is a coin-sized battery similar to a watch battery that is installed on the motherboard to power the CMOS memory chip. The CMOS memory chip stores a computer's hardware settings. Like all batteries, CMOS batteries expire, and when the battery expires, the system clock resets, and you'll need to replace the battery to restore the computer system time, date, and hardware settings. In this video, you learned that internal computer components include everything connected to the motherboard. A motherboard provides a communication pathway for peripherals. A memory slot holds RAM in place on a computer's motherboard. The computer's BIOS is pre-programmed into the motherboard and uses CMOS to store configuration settings. And you can replace the CMOS battery to restore configuration settings.